So I'm Tabrez. I'm the creative director of Format 3, an experience design agency we're headquartered in the UK, but we are based remotely. We've got one of our co-founders in Nashville right now working with another client. We've got some of our designers based in Poland, and we've got one in the Netherlands as well. Great place of design, great design pedigree there. Yeah, and I'm based out in Dubai.
Okay, nice. And how big is your team?
So we are about 12 people. Yeah. So we've Chief Experience Design Officer, Chief Product Officer. You've got me as Creative Director. Then we've got a couple of motion designers, UI. We have UX design. And we even have a 3D designer as part of the team. One of our projects we recently completed was a metahuman, actually, for an Abu Dhabi client. So we've created one of the world's first Emirati female metahumans, which has been quite a nice project to work on.
Okay, and in what industries mostly you are working?
This is the benefit of working in the design industry. You get to work across a huge spectrum of industries. So one of them is a kids entertainment. Another one is a website for a healthcare dashboard platform. And another industry is the tourism industry. We've worked for creating the UX and the UI for some digital touchscreens for a visitor center in Abu Dhabi. So quite a broad spectrum across the industry.
And mostly about your designs, is it just a website, or maybe it's complicated ERP systems? What you're creating?
Yeah, this is the beauty of the wide spectrum of design. It covers so much, and I think at the root of it, we look at solving problems. What's the problem that each client is facing? And it might be a case of their users aren't fully engaging with the product because the complexity of the idea. So you might have a great idea, but at launch you might have created the interface, but it's a bit too complicated for users to catch on to this brilliant idea that you may have. Yeah. So what we do is we just simplify it down. We will work in UX, so we work with wireframes, work at the problem. We also work in product design, and then also we can look at, that's part of app design, part of that ecosystem, websites as well, branding. We've even done a little bit of print design as well. So again, it's just this working in so many different areas.
Yeah.
And it's also about, the industry is always changing. 5 years ago, everyone was like talking about apps being a big thing and kind of moving into more AI work now. We've got Web3 happening. We've just created a metahuman that would have been unheard of a few years ago. AI is definitely a big one. When you're looking around here, everyone on their boards has got some kind of solution for AI. So it's definitely something that's being harnessed. I think that will be another one about differentiate what part of AI are you using, what does it make your product better, and how does it work?
Okay, so you're considering AI is the next topic that will be really on top of mind of everyone, or you also have some other spheres in your mind that can be really actual, a main topic for the nearest years?
I think I read a report recently from the Harvard Business Review talking about Gen Alpha. So that's children that are born from 2010 onwards. And it talked about in their lifetime, they will never know a life without AI. So it will become as common as it is for some people. So I remember the world before the internet. I was a teenager when it came out, but I absolutely couldn't live without it. You know, there's people that just don't know what the world is like without the internet. So for this generation, it's very much AI is going to be a big part of it. And I think it's still quite a nascent technology. We're not quite sure where it's going, how it's helping people. But I think one way to frame it is that it's going to help people. It might expedite a few tasks, but we still need to use our brain. And will it free up our brains to do other tasks? It might require a new way of thinking, because the interesting thing is that we've got Gen Alpha. They're going to have jobs in 20 years that we've never heard of.
Yeah.
I mean, just earlier, someone was talking about panoramic photography on your iPhone, the way that Google Maps creates these images. You get images that are chopped up, but you get people that are specifically hired to fix those images. I mean, 5 years ago, you wouldn't be hired to fix images in like panoramic photos.
Yeah. Is it your first day on this exhibition?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so you had already time to explore some areas here and also to get known some more startups. Have you found already some interesting startups maybe you can invest or take some ideas from?
Yeah, there was actually one startup that I met. They're called Gem AI.
Okay.
And it's like an equivalent of ChatGPT.
Oh.
The very interesting thing is that their product is up to date. So ChatGPT has got a time limit where everything stops at September 21.
Yep.
So for example, if you were to ask ChatGPT about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that's happening right now, ChatGPT wouldn't give you any contextual information right now. Their product does do that. which is really interesting. It's live up-to-date information, and also their platform can analyze YouTube videos. So say, for example, you've got a very complicated YouTube video, maybe talking about Karl Marx and his manifesto or something like that. So this platform can actually look at the video, take a lot of information out of it, and then using ChatGPT, similar properties, can you summarize that video for me into 200 words? And they can do that for you. And then what's interesting is that they've got the idea, they've got the product, but what they lack is design. This is where ChatGPT works really well, because they partnered with a proper global design agency to elevate it, and that kind of brought it into the stratosphere of like, it's another big player in the AI field. And I think that's where design really helps some of these startups. You can have a brilliant idea, but if you don't have good branding, if you don't have good content, if you don't have proper UX thinking behind your product. I saw the guy kind of struggling to use his product because the UX and the UI of his product wasn't that good. The brain behind it is really impressive. Yeah. This is where he could do with a partnership with a design agency to actually, we understand what you have, your product, but you have a problem in that no one can really use it properly because it's still a bit raw. But that's fine, it's an early stage. That's one of the startups I was chatting to.
Yeah, it's really like the workflow of some startups. They have a great idea, but the implementation itself, or they're missing some consultancy from UI, UX, so some experience in this field is really missing. So it can be also the case why startups sometimes are falling behind and not up to track.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoy quotes regularly. One of my favorite quotes is that no one knows everything, but everyone knows something. And I think for these startups, it's really interesting for the startups because they're really young, brilliant minds, but they haven't got experience, and that's where they partner up. So a lot of them have got investors that help them out with that experience part, but it's really about this case of getting people to gel together and just create amazing products. So I'm sure over here we do have like the next Uber or the next OpenAI. It's somewhere, we don't know where it is, but it can happen.
Here we have a lot of startups that are on pre-seed or seed stage. What can you recommend them on this stage to do in order to receive a really high quality product?
That's something that I'm not as well informed on, really, but I think it's just the general thing really of networking, getting out there, maybe partnering with an agency to push your content, push your social media. Marketing is a huge thing that a lot of people think of as an afterthought, but it can even be something that you do whilst you're building letting people know that you're building this product, and then design plays into that. But branding isn't just visual. It's not just about having a really cool logo and a cool website. Branding is also about the people, about how you talk to people. So it's a lot about how you communicate. And what's interesting is that some of these startups, there was a couple of girls for one startup, and I asked them about their idea, and they were talking to me about it, but they were talking so fast and they were interrupting each other.
Oh.
And I think communication is really important. So advice for any, especially pre-seeds where they're looking for investors, I think get your elevator pitch right, speak slowly, learn about communication skills, because if you can't communicate your idea, I don't know how anyone will invest in you.
Yes, so that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, Serge, maybe you can also join our podcast. Let me give it to you.
Yes, sure. So, I know you were talking about some things. I'm very interested in your work as a designer because I consider design as a key success factor of using and engaging with a software solution. And I'm a bit of an IT geek. Initially, we were only focusing on functionality and making it somewhat nice. And then if a client says, I need to have some extra feature, we were just trying to squeeze it in the design, and we could find some space where we could add an extra button or an extra feature.
Yeah.
And it was just getting ugly. And I see a lot of software solutions that are plain ugly. Actually, we are competing with Microsoft Dynamics on some fields, and we are able to win from Microsoft Dynamics every single time. And if we ask, why are you selecting us? It makes complete sense to me. They say, Microsoft Dynamics is a system that for us is a dead-end street from the beginning, because they have, let's say, 20,000 clients. Now we are stuck with 20,000 different features because every client has a demand for a button or a feature. And if they ask us, what do you need? And we say we need these 3 features or whatever you call it. They say, okay, yeah, well, we have 20,000 and we have also those 3. If you will follow the process in 10 steps, you will follow the flow of what you need. And we try with design to bring them from A to B in just one step.
Exactly.
And we are challenging our clients even to, if they say we need 5 buttons, for example, just a simple example, we are challenging the guys of the client, you really need 5? Can we not do in 3? So What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I completely agree. Well, I won't mention them by name, but I did work at a bank here.
Yeah.
And the boss at that time, he spoke to me about the entrance to the app. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's a banking app. The first thing, I'll ask you this question actually. So if you were to open up a banking app,
I want to see my balance.
exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first thing on this banking app was not your balance, right? It was telling you what time of day it is and telling you a joke of the day. And then as you scroll down, it's got offers and offers like insurance, offers, cinema discount tickets. I had to push quite hard to ask, like, why can't I see my balance, right? Then on top of this, the boss of the bank said, okay, I want us to add another feature. And I was like, I'm all ears for this. So on the homepage, when you log in on the app, you've also got the option for a PIN code. If for some reason there's an edge case where someone can't log in, at the top it's got 4 buttons. And he wanted the 4 buttons to take you off the app onto the website. So buy insurance with us, or get a credit card with us, or explore offers and all those things. And everyone kind of forgets about like...
So it was not an app, it was a marketplace.
Yeah,
even.
so it's a bit like you're forgetting what's happening here. You've got a customer who wants to know their balance and they want to go from A to B.
Yeah.
But you're sending them in so many different directions before they get to that bank balance. And there's different laws of UX, and there's one of them, I think it's called Miller's Law, which is if you have more than 7 items on a page or something, it's just too overwhelming and your users won't remember.
Oh, wow. This is called Miller's Law.
Miller's Law, yeah. And it's basically, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So if you arrive somewhere, you're overwhelmed with choice and you get this kind of choice paralysis thing. So the analogy that I use is if you go to a fine dining restaurant, you look at the menu, you've got like 3 starters, 3 mains and dessert. You will look at that once you've enjoyed your main course. Some restaurants, you go there and it's just got millions of photos.
Yeah.
It's got like the planet and it's like, right, you can choose. We've got 100 starters, we've got 100 main courses.
I disconnect completely.
Exactly. You just look at it and you go, I'm just going to have a burger, or it's going to go somewhere else.
It's true. Actually, when I go to a restaurant, I don't want to make the decision. I think it's really great service if they can help me to decide what's the best for me. If they ask me some questions and then they prepare a meal, those kind of restaurants are like the best.
Yeah.
Analogy that I use for this is, I'm born in 1972, so there was a day in my time, even in the Netherlands, when I went to a supermarket, there were actually 2 options for dessert. You had just plain yogurt and you had vanilla like curd.
Yeah.
And now you have 1,600 different variations for desserts, and it's really too overwhelming for me. I'm really disconnected.
And then you just buy a banana because it's easier.
Yeah, exactly. So you go for the simple stuff. Or when you order tea, for example, the next question is, what kind of tea would you like?
Yeah.
I want tea, right? For me, tea is tea. But okay, maybe I'm a too simple person for this, but this is just talking about tea. But can you imagine, and you can imagine because it's your profession, what happens if you are encountering for the very first time a complete new software that you need to learn and adapt and use for the work that was always done in, let's say, 10 steps to get from A to B, and now you need to make maybe 1 or 2 different types of steps. So you need to change it. Software implementation is change management, and if you can lower the threshold with a great intuitive design, the adoption speed is way, way faster than when it's overwhelming and complicated.
Absolutely. I think there's so many platforms out you can think of. One most familiar with is Figma, which is the design tool.
I love Figma, yes.
So Figma, I mean, to talk about my journey to pre-Figma, there was Sketch, which was only available on the Mac. Sketch was like a replacement for Adobe XD, or there was like the older ones of Firework. Sketch made their UI look like Apple. So at first Sketch looked like, it's like Keynote, but it's advanced. This is quite cool. I remember the first time I used it, I didn't even know how to draw a square. And then it was like, there it is. Okay, it's a lot quicker. And then when you move to Figma, mirrored Sketch in some ways, but then it had the remote function to it. So that was around about 3 years ago. But March 2020 is when the pandemic hit the UAE. Everyone went remote. We all switched to Figma. Everyone started getting used to like working with slight variations, but because you've got the background of Sketch, you kind of work on that. And then Figma had a roadmap. They implement it once a year at their Figma conference. And now they're starting to implement things like AI. Past few conferences, they've added things like auto layout, which have been really advanced features, way more than Sketch. But I think it's, as you say, like you learn the basics. This is about design. Then you just bring in those features bit by bit, because you don't need to overwhelm users with like throwing everything there at once, because if you do that, someone might just jump straight to like the AI function of Figma without understanding the basics of like, how do I just draw a couple of squares and have auto layout there, you know?
I completely understand what you are meaning. We have a challenge. We are a software company. We develop software products. Once we make a delivery to a client, I really consider it to be change management. We cannot throw everything on the plate of the end user.
Yeah.
So what we do, we have the Spiral Essentials, which is really simple to understand, to use. It's very stable. On top of that, you can add some building blocks. So we are deploying those building blocks, roadmap that we align with the client, what needs to be done first, but we will not throw all the building blocks on the plate of the client immediately. So we help them to start using the My Task to Do app that is connected with a dispatching board, and then you can see the progress of each and every task, and it is connected with an app. Very straightforward. Everybody knows how to use WhatsApp, and it is like that, right? And then we build up with different features, different apps. And this is how we help them to adapt the technology, especially in business to business SaaS solutions. What we are doing, it can be very, very complicated.
That's really interesting. I think you're talking about change management. That's really important because I've actually worked as a consultant at a change management consultancy. And it does take a lot of effort to get everyone to think about changing their approach to something, change management about. You have to learn a few things to be able to learn new tools. It's quite interesting. But you've also going off in different directions here. It's a very exciting conversation. But I think again, where you talk about doing bit by bit instead of going full advance. I'm a parent. I've got 2 kids. They're one just turned 5. The other one's going to be 8 next month. And you think about bringing up kids. You don't take them running straight away.
No.
If they've got to learn how to crawl, walk, then run, get that hand-eye coordination going. I'm sure when he's 12, I'll be playing a game of tennis with him. But we didn't go straight to tennis. I wouldn't recommend playing tennis with a newborn baby. You're not going to get a good game.
Well, that game you will win for sure. It's not about that, but I agree with you. I'm here with my oldest. I'm not sure if you met her. She was just here on the pod. Her name is Lieve, and I asked her, "Can you help us with the podcast?" And this was completely new to her.
Okay.
So I'm stepping in for her in a way because she's editing back in the hotel.
I see.
And she came for lunch a little bit later. Anyhow, I had some ideas how to perform her job, how she can perform her job, and that was a very advanced expectation I had of her. It was not realistic, so we just started in baby steps, one step at a time, trial and error. Every time you get stuck, to get out of such situation yourself. If you are still stuck for way too long, then we will get you out of that situation. And this is actually how you also should implement software. So I learned along the way, being the leader of a software development team, and not to throw everything on the plate of a new resource and expecting that he is senior or mature. It's really not realistic. And the same metaphor applies on providing new software solution in the work area of the end user. So you were in consultancy before you started your design company, right?
Yeah, well, this was about 8 years ago it was. But most recently, I've just finished working at Majid Al Futtaim. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're one of the large conglomerates in Dubai.
I heard many names. I'm not so familiar with the ecosystem. Can you explain a little bit about?
Yeah, they're a conglomerate. They own multiple businesses. So they built the Mall of the Emirates. So one of the largest.
I've been
malls.
there. Oh wow, it's really amazing.
So that was before Dubai Mall. So they built one of the world's largest malls.
Yeah.
Inside one of the world's largest malls, you've got Ski Dubai, which is one of the world's largest indoor ski slopes. So the project I recently worked on was the brand new website for Ski Dubai. I did a completely new website.
Oh, we have to check it out. We will leave it in the comments.
Definitely. And also I worked on the Ski Dubai app as well. And this is really interesting because when you go to a place like this, to look back to what we were talking about earlier, there are so many options and opportunities that you can do when you go to Ski Dubai. We simplified it as much as we could on the website. And this was done through design, through UX and UI. And through UI, we even created custom 3D characters as well. So
you were as a consultant, as a business.
I was the design lead, the creative director on this project. So I was working with the design team. And for example, when you go to Ski Dubai, you will kind of fit one of the several categories. You're either a very avid skier and you just want to keep going every week, in which case you can go from the website to the app, which will log your performance through your ski passport. Or if you're visiting Dubai for a couple of weeks, you might just want to go there and just meet the penguins.
There are penguins there?
They've got penguins there, yeah.
Skiing and penguins.
They've got skiing, they've got penguins, they've got a snow park, they've got a giant Zorpal that you can just sort of fall around in.
This is mind-blowing.
And it's like, yeah, fine, you're not here for snowboarding or skiing, but you can go meet the penguins. So we made the website very simple for people to just pinpoint exactly what they want. And also, these websites look great on desktop, But you have to think about a lot of your audiences are mobile users. So we optimize the website specifically for mobile, that when you go on the Ski Dubai website, you've got a little find tickets button at the bottom. And it's very easy to just pick your activity very quick and then move on to the number of people that are going and then go into the dates. And then you find your tickets. And it's a real proud moment for me because it's such a complex website and we just really simplified it using this little module. And as you select it, it shows a summary you select as well.
Yeah.
So that was quite a nice project. Yeah, and Format 3, our agency, we had a soft launch last week, our website,
I saw it on your smartphone.
Yeah.
I will check it out. It's really amazing. It's very, very creative.
Thank you.
And this is exactly the way to do it when you present yourself as a creative brand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
When was the first time you considered to start living in Dubai?
It was actually, so what are we now? Today's the 17th. So on the 19th of October is my 4-year anniversary for Dubai.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So we will celebrate
We'll have
day
a
after
celebration.
tomorrow
Yeah,
with
exactly.
some whiskey, probably.
Yeah.
Scottish whiskey, isn't
Indeed,
it?
yeah. And so then I was, living a great life in London. I was just finished working as a UX lead on a project for GSK, the pharmaceuticals. And my wife and I thought, we've got a couple of kids. The youngest one's going to be 1 soon. Let's move back to Scotland, start fresh there, get into some fresh air, give the kids loads of open air. And a recruiter randomly got in touch with me saying, I've got a job for you in Dubai. And he got in touch with me because I used to run a UX mentoring platform on Slack. And he was a recruiter in there. And I said, never ever been interested in Dubai. Why would I want to go there? But again, I think it's just my nature, open mind. I'll go for the interview. So I had interviews with Publicis Sapient. After 4 interviews, they offered me the role. And 3
All
months
the interviews were here in Dubai itself?
Yeah. So it was just, they were all remote from London. That's where I used to live. Then I moved out here after 3 months after the interview. And then we just thought, what's the worst that could happen? And it was obviously a pandemic, which is the worst thing that could have happened. But Dubai was a really good city to be in for the pandemic. I think it's everyone in Dubai has got so much respect for the leadership here. It's not like the UK where there's always so much divisive politics.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wear a mask, I will wear a mask, and all of this sort of stuff.
Arguing with everything.
Everyone here just wore a mask. If you don't wear a mask, you get a fine. And it was just like everyone obeyed.
They are very strict here, right? But they manage really well.
Yeah.
They explain it.
Yeah, I love living in Dubai. And I think also, again, like coming from the UK, with kids is a big deal for me because kids get treated like royalty here. Kids are allowed to be kids. Kids should be seen and not heard. Whereas out here, kids have just got a great life. It's super safe.
Depends on the place in Europe. When you're in Italy, it's also like royalty.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's different in the Netherlands. I can tell you stories about the difference between how children are treated in Italy, for example, and in the Netherlands. But here it is like royalty. Kids are like royalty.
They just get treated really well. They're never made to feel ashamed for being noisy, for example,
All right.
And it's just really safe as well. And so much open space. I'm big on outdoor sports and stuff. So my eldest learned to skateboard by the time he was 4 because there's so much space around here, great weather. The youngest learned to ride his bike and skateboard as well by the time he was 4. He learned to swim when he was 1.5 years old. It's just like,
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's also a bit of an exceptional child, but it's just, I love living here. And I think Dubai is interesting because in some ways, a friend of mine reframed what Dubai is. So he said to think of Dubai as a corporation.
It is more a company than
as
a state,
opposed to a
isn't it?
city.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're running a company, you want to run it really well.
Yeah.
You want to keep all your employees or citizens
On
happy.
board, happy.
So most people I know live here are loving life. We enjoy it. We have a lot of respect for living here as well. And as long as you respect being a guest somewhere, it's a great place to live. So yeah, I love it here.
And when you have some time off, you go to the desert for a hiking trip?
Yeah,
Camping.
we go camping out in the deserts, out in the mountains. I've just started running about a year ago, so I'm doing the Abu Dhabi Marathon in December. The great thing about that is I've got an amazing running coach and we just run on the beach. The beach, there's like a running track. We go there like 3-4 times a week.
It's outside, even when it's 42 degrees.
Even when it's 42.
Beginning of this week, it was 42, right?
Yeah.
You were running and training?
Yeah. That's why we meet at like 5 a.m. so it's not so hot.
All right.
But it's still
makes
pretty
sense.
hot.
It's still hot. I
Yeah,
think 23, 24 degrees at least.
That's still about 35 degrees at that
really?
time. It's pretty crazy.
5 a.m.?
Yeah, even then. But it's a great place to like just live your life. I always said I would never live in Dubai, but I didn't know Dubai. That was just based on...
I also had some assumptions that really proved not to be true. Actually,
Yeah.
it's the quite opposite than what I expected.
Exactly, and I think bringing it back to like software design or design, you can have a lot of assumptions before you do something.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have assumptions, it's human nature to have assumptions.
I agree. It was really great talking to you, man.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Hope to see you again in Dubai. Day after tomorrow you have something to celebrate.
Yeah,
So we might drink some scotch.
definitely. Let's do
Great.
it. Cheers.